Okay, hi. Today I would like to review this device. This is the Azeron Cyborg, which is a gaming device. The aim of this is to put lots and lots and lots of buttons just at your fingertips and to reduce the amount of sort of stretching, fiddling around for keys that you have when you're using keyboard and mouse. I bought this on a bit of a whim, I have to be honest. Normally I do a lot more research before I go out and buy something, but I just looked at this, it's advertised on Facebook, and I went, wow, that's really cool, and I went out and bought one. Bought it off eBay because it was being sold from the UK, and I didn't want to pay all the European tariffs and charges that you get with that. These retail for, I think it's €160, brand new from the manufacturer. Unfortunately, it is shipping from Europe, so like I say, you could probably expect another, I don't know, maybe £30 in tax and admin charges on top of that. I didn't want to pay that. I thought that's a bit steep, to be totally honest. I've been bitten by that when I bought my Virpil Warbird. That cost me about another £45 in tax and admin, which was a bit of a shock. So, bought this off eBay, paid £112 for it, which I think is a pretty good price. I was quite happy with it. And I've had a bit of a chance to have a try out of this. I've probably spent about, I don't know, 10 or 15 hours, maybe a bit more, playing on this, just to try and get my head around it and get used to it. So, long story short, this is alright, but I'm not super happy with it. I think overall it will almost certainly be going on eBay again in the none too distant future. Let me explain its features. Actually, no, first of all, let me explain why I bought this. So the reason I thought this was going to be really appealing was for three reasons. First reason was because, the one that's advertised for really, which is that it gives you lots and lots and lots of buttons right at your fingertips. I thought this would be really cool. A lot less hassle than trying to fiddle around, trying to find a key on a keyboard. It's all just right there in front of you. The second reason was I was thinking this might help to reduce RSI. It's got what looks like it could be quite a comfortable sort of resting position. You've got this nice, sort of curved hand rest with a little integrated wrist rest. So, it's all just there. It seems quite comfy and nice. And the last reason was I wanted to use it in conjunction with VR. I play a lot of DCS, flight sim. The main thing that I wanted to be able to get over while playing DCS was communications. I tend to find that it's really fiddly trying to go for the F keys, which is what controls most of the menus in DCS with a headset on. I've got an Artec wireless keyboard here. Quite a good little keyboard, but one of the main problems that I have when I'm playing DCS is that all the F keys, as you can see, are all in one long block. I used to have a Cherry keyboard. The Cherry keyboard had the keys separated out into blocks of 4. That was quite easy to navigate because you just had to find the gap, and then you had a rough idea of which block you're on, and then just had to pick the F key within that block. This new Artec keyboard, it's quite a nice keyboard, but it doesn't have that. What I was hoping was I could use this for DCS and just basically assign different keys to different radio menus, and then I could reach out and use it while I was in VR. It doesn't work that well for that, it's got to be said. I'll come to that a little bit more later on. So, as you can see, it's quite a weird looking beast. What you can't see so easily is that this is very, very customizable. These, I don't know what you call them, booms, key carriers, I don't know what you call them. These can be moved in and out. They can also be splayed side to side to sort of take advantage of whether you want your fingers more open or more closed. And these can be, I think the angle of these can be changed, and they can also be rotated in and sort of like in and out like that. So okay, so they can rock side to side as well a little bit. just to get everything lined up properly. And I've spent probably 2 hours fiddling about trying to get it to my liking, and it's quite comfy now. So you've got all these buttons here. You've got lots of sort of fingertip buttons here, then sort of what I think of as fingernail buttons here, side buttons on either end, and then these little sort of ones are set back here that you can just flick with, again like a fingertip. You've also got up here, you've got these top ones which are also sort of like fingernail buttons. Not actually that accessible, not as accessible as they tend to look, but they're alright. And then in addition to that, you've got your little joystick, which is just like a normal Xbox controller joystick, and that is for strafing forward, back, left, right. Another little joystick above it. These both have push-in buttons as well, not clicky buttons. The click on these is all very nice. I watched a Linus Tech Tips video, and one of the things they said was that the clicks on the buttons are quite nice, and that's true. Okay. This little thing down here, you've got an LED. This LED tells you which profile it's in. So you click that, you've got profile 1, profile 2. Okay. Okay. So the software that comes with it is this software here, and literally as you press the buttons you can see what pops up, and you can easily reconfigure each key to do exactly what you want to do. The software is okay, it's not wonderful. What you can see here is you've got onboard and you've got software. So onboard is literally you don't have the software running in the background. It will just keep the profile in the memory on the device, and you just plug it in, turn on your game, and you can play it with that profile. Like I say, you can switch between profile 1, profile 2 just by pressing a button. Yeah, so 1, 2. The software are additional profiles that you can make where you basically have to have the software running, and it will just basically take it from there. So you've got an extra thing running in the background, but it's pretty small, it's not a major issue. The problem that I have with the software is that there is a lack of an ability to be able to drag and drop these profiles. So you can't just take profile 1 from the software and drag it onto the onboard. If you want to change the onboard, you have to do the whole thing from scratch. You have to sit down and go one by one each individual thing for each individual key stroke for the profile, which is kind of laborious. It would be much better if you could just do that. If you could just drag, from the software to the onboard profile and the onboard profile back to the software, but you can't. So that's a bit of a pain in the bum. Watching the Linus Tech Tips video on this, he was having a bit of a complaint about the way you use this. Now, I am sort of by tradition and by habit, I am somebody who likes to use the ESDF layout on a keyboard. So the first thing I did when I got this was I just literally set up the keys so that sort of ESDF. So middle finger is E. So forward is E, or finger pad is E, and then D is pull back on the little clicky thing here. And then I used the ring finger button and my index finger button push down for those sorts of things. I kick forwards or push forwards, click forwards, whatever it is, for reload. Then I tried that for a little bit, and it worked okay. It wasn't too bad. It was a little bit like using a keyboard, but then after a little while I started thinking, well, actually, I'm not really using this to its full potential, because the whole point is you've already got the joystick here, which takes care of the forward, back, left, right movement. And once I started using that, I started to rethink, actually, where do I want all my other keys? So I started using that for the sprint button, that for jump, kept that as the reload button. And then I sort of started doing various other bits and pieces. I like to keep my finger, my little finger button here for crouch. It's just kind of natural. But you can fiddle around with it any way you want, and it does give you quite a lot of buttons to play with. The problem is that every time you decide to reconfigure it, you've got to start trying to train your muscle memory again, which takes a little while. And even now, I mean, I've played on it for, I don't know, I'm not sure how long I've played on it for, but it's probably 20 odd hours maybe. I've played 4 games with it. I've played Satisfactory, which it works quite well for. That works pretty well. I've played Black Mesa. It works very well for that because there aren't a huge number of keys in Black Mesa. I've played Generation Zero, which it was basically unusable for, largely because in Generation Zero, for whatever reason, you can't use the stick and the sprint button together, as in if you're moving around using the joystick and then you press the sprint button, it doesn't sprint, nothing happens. And you can get around that by setting the sprint to one of the pushy buttons. But it's really fiddly, because if you are touching touching the joystick at all, the joystick takes priority and basically it just doesn't sprint again. And it's a game where when you need to sprint, otherwise you're going to get zapped by a robot. So that was quite irritating. And then the last game I've played with it is DCS. I had a little bit of a play trying to use it for the radio keys. Like I say, Black Mesa was good. Satisfactory was good. Satisfactory anyway. And Generation Zero didn't really work at all how I wanted it to. The big thing that I find with using this is that although you've got somewhere in the region of 30 keys that you've got right at your fingertips, 30 keys actually isn't that many. And that's quite surprising to me. I thought 30 keys is quite a lot of keys. That's quite a lot of options, really. But the big problem is that with most first-person games, which is what I tend to play, I mean, I'm not that diverse in my gaming. I tend to be flight simulators and first-person shooters, which, I kind of feel that the first-person shooter is probably where this thing is mostly designed, to be used. The problem with most first-person shooters is that most first-person shooters have hotkeys. They generally have a tool belt. And, you press 1 for your knife, 2 for your pistol, 3 for your shotgun, 4, and so on up through your number keys. So that's 10 keys already, just 1 to 0 for your tool belt. That's a third of the keys available on this. And when I say, when I talk about number of keys, I'm including the joystick, the 2 joysticks. So it's not actually as many as it seems. Now, with Black Mesa, it's not a major problem. I just use the scroll wheel on the mouse, which actually works just as well as using the hotkeys anyway. Satisfactory, I never really quite figured out how to get the various things assigned to the tool belt anyway. So, to be honest with you, I'd got 4 things in my tool belt, and I was just using this little joystick up, down, forward and backwards to select those things. So that was okay, but I'm sort of thinking about something like, I don't know, Scum, where you've got 8 items on your tool belt that you're going to want to get to quite quickly. That's going to cause a major problem if you can't do that. I mean, okay, you can get 5 just on here, like I say, sort of forward, backwards, left and right, or up, down, forward, back, however you want to look at it, plus also press in. But you do have to press in quite hard. And your finger isn't always necessarily just in the right position to do that. Likewise, this has got a push in, but again, it's quite a hard press. And the problem I tend to find is that I'm not a big controller fan. I don't like PS3 control. I mean, the PS3 is the last console that I played on, which I largely bought because I wanted to play The Last of Us. I did okay with The Last of Us. I enjoyed it. I played it all the way through. I thought it was a fantastic game, but I would have preferred it more if I could have used a mouse and keyboard. So this little joystick is a little bit of a departure for me in terms of what I tend to like. And one of the big problems that I tend to find with it is that I tend to find half the time I'm, sort of controlling it like that. I don't actually tend to find that a lot of the time I've got it sort of sat in the centre of my thumb pad. It tends to be, like I said, I'm pushing it there and I'm pulling it, and I'm tend to be right on the edge of it. So if you try to push it in, it's quite a lot of effort, and you tend to find that you're going to push yourself off centre while you're walking around. So I'm not really sure why that's useful as such, but it's there. It's a thing. Yeah. The VR side of things didn't really work that well. The main problem with this as a VR accessory, and I know it's not designed for this, it's just something I was kind of hoping it would be useful for, is that trying to get your hand in here with a headset on without clicking any buttons is actually quite difficult. Now in DCS, the way I set this up is I basically went all these kind of clicky buttons that are right next to, I don't really know how to describe them, but these little clicky buttons here, I just went F1, F2, F3, F4. I think you probably just saw the issue there, was I accidentally clicked something I didn't mean to click. And then F5, F6, F7, F8, F9, F10, 11, 12. Okay. Now the problem is, if you click any F key in DCS when it's not in radio mode, you change the view. So you're flying along and you kind of go, oh, I just need to do a quick radio thing, and accidentally click, I don't know, F10. That'd be F10. And suddenly, your view disappears and you've got a damn great map in your face. And also, trying to, get to individual keys sometimes without clicking more than one can be quite difficult. See, like that can be quite difficult. So reaching out to where I could find somewhere to put it, I mean, basically it was up on my desk like that. So I was kind of reaching over and trying to slot my fingers in, and then pull the right thing, and accidentally pull the B and the F key there. I think really not actually that useful, which is a shame. So yeah, that's it. So all in all, it's an interesting gadget, and if you were playing the sort of game that maybe didn't need more than 30 keys in total, it might be quite good. The problem with needing more than 30 keys is that trying to use this in conjunction with a keyboard isn't really that easy, because your hands here and then your keyboard's up there, because this thing's quite big. So I've got a mouse over here, I've got my Azeron Cyborg there, and then this gap in between, even for quite a small keyboard, it's just not big enough. So the keyboard's got to sit up on my desk while this is sitting on my keyboard drawer, keyboard tray, whatever you call it. And trying to take your fingers off here and then go and press something on a keyboard and then come back to here. To be honest, it kind of defeats the object. The whole point is that everything is right at your fingertips. So if you are playing the kind of game that doesn't have an enormous number of key presses to the game, it might be quite good. I certainly wouldn't want to try to play Armour 3 on it or something like that, because that's got hundreds of keys. It'd just be a total nightmare. And if you're willing to put the time and effort into learning, get your muscle memory up, it might be worth doing. Because I mean, the thing is, one of the criticisms that came out of the Linus Tech Tips review was saying that it's difficult to carry the profile from one game to another, which I have to say I would disagree with. I actually think it's not that difficult at all to carry the profiles from one game to another, because all you do is you just work out, what button do I want to use for jump, what button do I want to use for crouch, what button do I want to use for lean, and change mag and reload, change ammo, all the things you want to do. You just work out which ones you want to use, and then you set the device up in the software, and then you just do the keybinds in the game to reflect what you want to use. And so far, I have to be honest, I've not really had an issue from that perspective. My issue has really just been that it's not better than a keyboard. It's not awful, but I don't really want to pay over 100 quid for not awful. I want to pay over 100 quid for something that I'm going to go, my God, this is revolutionary. And it's not. It's not. It's okay. It's moderately on par with a keyboard. But I've got a keyboard. So that's that, really. So long and short of it, is it worth the money? Don't know. Probably a matter of personal opinion. For me, I would say probably not. It's interesting. It's funky. It's been an experience. I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I bought it on eBay. And I'm kind of hoping that I'll be able to sell it on eBay again for about the same amount of money that I bought it for. Yeah. Not exactly a stellar review, but there you go. Anyway, thank you for watching if you are. And feel free to like, but I wouldn't bother to subscribe because I don't update my channel that often. Anyway, thanks very much. Have a good one.